It's Tuesday, October 13. Good afternoon, I'm Herman Green with your midday news. If you're watching on onespotmedia.com, a very special welcome to you. Thanks for joining us. The COVID-19 pandemic is expected to push over 150 million people into extreme poverty by 2021. That's based on the severity of the economic contraction. O'Shane Masters reports.
According to the biennial Poverty and Shared Prosperity Report recently released by the World Bank, extreme poverty is likely to affect between 9.1% and 9.4% of the world's population in 2020. Now, that represents a regression to the rate of 9.2% in 2017. The World Bank noted that had the globe not suffered a significant contraction due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the poverty rate would have likely dropped to 7.9% this year. The report also found that many of the new poor will be in countries that already have high poverty rates. The report estimates that about 82% of those who will slip below the extreme poverty line will be in middle-income countries. The World Bank says the convergence of the COVID-19 pandemic with the pressures of conflict and climate change will put the goal of ending poverty by 2030 beyond reach. It, however, noted that swift, significant, and substantial policy action could deter that. In a bid to help, the World Bank says it will be deploying up to $160 billion in financial support over 15 months to more than 100 countries. Those funds, the financial giant says, will include $50 billion of new International Development Association resources through grants and highly concessional loans. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
And the country's coronavirus case count now stands at 7,910. 97 cases of the respiratory illness were recorded yesterday. The confirmed cases ages range from 2 to 90 years. St. James, Kingston and St. Andrew and Westmoreland had the highest number of cases with 63 cases. The latest statistics provided by the Ministry of Health and Wellness show that there are 21 critically ill patients. Another 24 persons are moderately ill. And a former worker at the Teleperformance call center in St. James has described a worrying situation at the BPO establishment. In an interview with TVJ News, the former worker told us that due to the lack of resources, they had to share equipment. It was also revealed that some of the guidelines set by the Health Ministry were not adhered to by the call center.
When I started working there with the COVID situation that is now in the country, I said to the manager, listen, I do not want to share a headset. She said, there's nothing I can do about that. You have to use it or you'll be out of a job. I'm not going to say that they do not try at times to remind people of the whole physical distancing, etc. The areas are not disinfected. Remember, you have different persons coming in different times of the day. You're going to touch the computer, you're going to touch the mouse, you're going to touch the headset, you're going to use the headset that other persons are using. All they give you is the sponge part to put over the hearing part, but the mouthpiece you have to speak into it.
Her greatest concerns are that these entities are not being properly monitored based on the current protocol of a health team visiting these locations.
They are saying that persons who came in contact with me, they should go off for 5 days or something to that effect. They should go off for 5 days, not 14, 5 days. So some persons were a bit, upset about it. So when they're saying persons who come in contact, close contact, they are referring to like if you're seated beside the person or if you have lunch, with that person or whatever the case may be. But it's a small account of what I said, O'Shane, and everybody mix and mingle at some point.
The call center was ordered closed by the St. James Health Department last Wednesday as 18 cases of COVID-19 were linked to the organization. However, within less than 24 hours, it was again operational. It's also understood that fear is growing among employees about the likelihood of the spread at the entity and, as a result, the entity's fate. Meanwhile, internationally, as the number of COVID-19 cases worldwide top 37 million, Latin America and the Caribbean make up more than 10 million of those cases. Details from the CNN.
Well, for the first time since this pandemic began, the 33 countries that make up Latin America and the Caribbean are now combined, reporting more than 10 million confirmed cases of the coronavirus. Of all those countries, Brazil leads the way with more than 5 million confirmed cases and counting. Brazil is followed by Colombia, Argentina, Peru, and then here in Mexico. But when you look, across the whole region and you look at this chart, which shows you the 7-day moving average of newly confirmed cases, you can see that that number is still extremely high. It hasn't really gone down below 60,000 cases per day consistently for a while now. And that is why the Pan American Health Organization says it is still very concerned, not only about the overall number of cases, but also spikes in cases, including in places that had effectively managed outbreaks, places like Cuba and Jamaica. There is a little bit of good news, though. We had heard from the Pan American Health Organization saying that in terms of the rates of severe COVID illness, they are seeing that begin to fall a little bit. That means fewer hospitalizations. It means less people requiring intensive care, but still, obviously, the situation remains quite grave in this part of the world.
Meanwhile, back home, there has been an increase in the number of persons suffering from mental health disorders stemming from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. That's according to consultant psychiatrist at the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Dr. Earl Wright. Dr. Wright made the revelation while speaking this morning on Power 106 FM's Morning Agenda program.
Some research has been done that we have been seeing an increase in the numbers of persons who are talking about having the symptoms of depression and having the symptoms of anxiety. And those individuals who have been exposed to COVID-19 and have been seriously ill, many of them go on to have post-traumatic stress disorder. When you have a pandemic like this that is lasting months, with lots of uncertainties, we don't know when we will get a cure for it. We don't know when we'll get a vaccine. This increases the stress level tremendously, and therefore you are going to have the increase in the anxiety levels, the increase in the anxiety disorders, and therefore the increase in the other mental condition, especially major depression.
Dr. Wright is encouraging persons to stay socially connected while maintaining physical distance. This, he explained, could help to reduce the stress that may lead to mental disorders. The Ministry of Health has launched a COVID-19 mental health response program in an effort to help protect the mental health of Jamaicans, especially the elderly.
So when somebody in the community sees somebody who is acting different, they know the individuals. They have been around for a long time. They have a relationship with these individuals. Then they listen to them, they look at them, listen to them, they notice what's going on, they talk to them, and they're able to link with the formal system, starting with the community health aid that happens in each community, in each district, throughout the island, and move it up.
And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, continuing the news. The broken water main on Arthurwind Drive in St. Andrew has been repaired. The National Water Commission says the work was completed by 10 o'clock Monday night. The pipeline ruptured yesterday, spewing gallons of water into the air, damaging vehicles, disrupting traffic and water flow to several corporate area communities. Even though the pipe has been repaired, NWC's Corporate Public Relations Manager, Andrew Cannon, says some areas served by the pipeline will continue to experience disruption issues.
There are places they may not have any water or they may be experiencing low pressure. These would be isolated situations. They are not general situations. So the areas that may be experiencing some difficulty will be parts of downtown Kingston, parts of Franklin Town, parts of Trench Town, and parts of Windward Road. Our distribution teams, they are on the ground as we speak, working to ensure that there is full restoration within as short time as possible.
The NWC is asking for patience from affected customers. Mr. Cannon explained the delay in restoring water to some communities, even though the repair work has been completed.
The pressure has to take a time to build up because, as you know, many persons will be turning on the system at one particular time. And as a result of that now, everybody may not be getting the water at the time when everybody's turning it on. And right now, the system is recharging so that everybody can get their supply.
Garbage pollution in the Portland Fish Sanctuary and surrounding areas is threatening lives and livelihood in that parish. It's why a group of volunteer scuba divers embarked on an underwater cleanup exercise in San Fan, East Portland. We have more in this report.
Coordinator of the Portland Fish Sanctuary cleanup dive, Leon Rondo, leads the way for the underwater exercise. Her team, the Ladiga Divers, has collaborated with other community members to remove garbage that has accumulated under the water in this area.
After I saw that big pile of trash, I was like, listen, something has to happen. And I really appreciate everybody that just quickly responded and said, yes, I'm coming out to help get rid of that.
Well, how I see it, if everybody take care of them environment, we won't find that in the ocean still, trust me.
More than half the fish vendors in Portland get their fish from this sanctuary. The garbage pollution is a threat to their livelihood. And after just a few minutes, divers found several items that didn't belong there.
The area that they're doing the cleanup is in the sanctuary. And so outside of the fact that we're stewards of the environment, we have even more of a vested interest in making sure that this area is cleaned up and maintained.
With just a few more dives, several bags of garbage were taken from the sanctuary, including this white bucket.
It's not going anywhere. That plastic is going to stay in the water longer than we're going to be on this earth. It doesn't belong there. And, really want to show people that away is a place. When you throw something away, this is one of the places it ends up. So somebody needs to go and get it.
Meanwhile, on the ground, there was enough evidence of what is hidden underwater. Enough to fill this garbage bag. Alexandra, the youngest diver on the team, shared her experience.
I have some pictures of the whole seaweed garbage pile. I was like, wow, that's a lot of garbage. And then, you just get right in and start cleaning up.
Close to a dozen volunteers have embarked on this exercise. They're hoping that at the end of it, they would have recovered all the underwater debris threatening life under the sea. Ms. Ronda, who propelled the entire initiative, had this to share.
We want to do this regularly and have, maybe quarterly we'll do a dive cleanup. So on top of doing beach cleanups, when we're allowed to do that again and gather in numbers, at least now we can do as divers, we can socially distance underwater and pick up trash.
Operation Cleanup will continue throughout the year at different areas in Portland. The hope is that someday they will no longer be needed. Prince Moore, TVJ News.
A man is dead following a shooting in Spanish Town, St. Catherine this morning. It's the second fatal shooting in the area within the last 24 hours. The identity of the deceased is not yet known. It's understood that the shooting stems from an ongoing gang feud in the area. On Monday, a 28-year-old man was also shot and killed in the Old Capital. He was identified as Kevin Lewis of a De La Vega address in the town. According to police reports, a few minutes before 12, Mr. Lewis was standing at a section of the roadway in the town when he was approached by armed men. They opened gunfire, hitting him multiple times in the upper body. Mr. Lewis was later pronounced dead at hospital. We go on to news overseas. On the second day of Supreme Court confirmation hearing on Capitol Hill, senators have an opportunity to ask Judge Amy Coney Barrett questions directly. And yesterday's opening statements seem to set the table for each party's line of inquiry today. We have more from the CNN.
With exactly 3 weeks to go until Election Day, Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett in the hot seat.
The game plan for today is to do our first round of 30-minute questioning.
Opening statements by Senate Judiciary Committee members Monday foreshadowed common lines of questioning Tuesday. Republicans giving Judge Barrett an opportunity to highlight her resume and her judicial philosophy, much like that of the late Justice Antonin Scalia.
If I'm confirmed, you would not be getting Justice Scalia. You would be getting Justice Barrett. And that's so because originalists don't always agree.
Democrats grilling Judge Barrett on the idea of precedent, especially in the case of Roe versus Wade, which legalized abortion.
Do you agree with Justice Scalia's view that Roe can and should be overturned by the Supreme Court?
I know one reason why it would be comforting to you to have an answer, but I can't express views on cases or pre-commit to approaching a case any particular way.
And the Affordable Care Act. The court is set to hear a challenge to the Obama-era health care law on November 10th.
I think you're a sympathetic person. But I do believe that the president selected you because he wanted somebody with your philosophy, and he had a reason for it.
Republicans seeking to move the process along with the goal of final confirmation before Election Day on November 3rd.
And we go now to news in sports. President of the Caribbean Football Union, Randy Harris, says he is not concerned by the lack of football in the region caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Simon Preston reports.
It's the international break and football is being played in Europe, Asia, South America, Central America and the Oceania region. But President of the Caribbean Football Union, Randy Harris, doesn't think it's time as yet to host football in the region.
I don't think we have the wherewithal to really organize games in the same way that Europe, Asia, and even Africa have in terms of having the means. And I think it is better to play it safe than be sorry.
The Caribbean made huge strides in the region last year, as 8 of the 16 representatives at the Gold Cup were from the Caribbean. In addition, 2 Caribbean teams reached the semi-finals of the Gold Cup for the first time in history. Harris feels the gap has been narrowed between the Caribbean and North and Central America, and he doesn't foresee this period without games affecting the region.
I think we are catching up. We are understanding the importance of having proper coaches dealing with our players. And of course, we have that trump card where many of our players have immigrated and are playing professional football in Europe and elsewhere, and have been able to enhance the quality of football that we play at the national level in the Caribbean.
TVJ Sports football analyst O'Neill 1878 Meredith is concerned about Jamaica slipping in the FIFA rankings if they continue to be inactive. Jamaica, who are 48th in the world, would need to stay in the top 50 so more players can get opportunities to secure work permits in Europe.
You wouldn't want to at least blind the prospects of the upcoming ones that we expect to go over. So I think it's crucial for us now to get some games, and we have seen Scotland. They are 49 in the world, and they are playing some football. So it's going to be important for us to at least stay to that top 50 to create that remuneration that I think our players deserve.
While international football remains up in the air, Waterhouse are due to host a CONCACAF League match on November 5. But CONCACAF's senior executive Howard McIntosh says the decision for that encounter and its location is with the government.
The government, and in particular the Ministry of Health, along with the Ministry of Sports, will have the final say in exactly what happens and exactly what transpires in terms of the protocols. But I know what is being considered is some type of biosecure bubble for the period.
The next FIFA window commences on November 9. Simon Preston reporting for TVJ Sports.
And that's it for the Midday News. I'm Herman Green. Remember to join us at 7 for the primetime package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.